the mayor has to understand and get it through his head, he made a mistake. Change it. You know, to the point where it gets national attention and you're still not embarrassed and you're still not concerned, and your chief hired this guy, and you have all these outlandish things that have transpired on his watch. In my view, it's because he has created an atmosphere wherein too many officers think they can do just what the hell they want to do and get away with it.
This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
J Street.
And welcome to The Source. Today we're going to start off this session, or this time of reporting, with the former Wilmington police officer who was indicted for excessive forces. I guess, do you think, before we even get into the discussion of it, do y'all think that anything is going to come out of this, even though he's been indicted?
So, I think they're going to push for it. They're going to make a good show. He'll probably get off easy, like they always do. But this isn't something new here in Delaware. Mm-hmm. He had a horrible track record prior to getting hired on by Chief Tracy and the mayor in Wilmington Police.
Oh, he was hired by this current chief of police?
Yes. Yep. He was hired 3 years ago, right in the middle of this chief's tenure, after he was fired from Cecil County.
Yeah.
Now, if you get fired from Cecil County for doing something bad, that's pretty bad, because Cecil County is known for police brutality, for being racist, and yet Wilmington welcomed him here with open arms, and then he goes and do this. Now, he also violated multiple city policies by not having his body-worn camera on, by having other incidents reported about him weeks leading up to that. And this is exactly why we're having an issue with proposed SB 149 amendments that they want to put on to the bill, is because this officer and the chief of police and their internal affairs knew this officer was doing bad things, weren't doing anything about it. It wasn't until the video surfaced that we could prove he was doing something wrong in the community that they had to take action, and they didn't want to.
Yeah. Now, with the chief, how do we know that there were there complaints before? It was. And nothing was done with them?
And nothing was done. There have been complaints made about him not having his body-worn camera on when interacting with the community.
Well, that could have been proven.
Right. Multiple times,
okay.
Right? But again, it becomes hearsay, right? Me versus you, right? But now we have a video, right? Thank God to the store clerk who leaked it. We have a video that shows him abusing community members.
Well, we don't know if the store clerk leaked it, because I don't want nobody to go off this show and say the store clerk leaked it. But it was leaked somewhere. And we did all see the video, because I just spoke out about that.
And then there was also other videos from just individuals on their phones about his interactions with a young girl where he's pulling her hair and spitting in her face. So this is what we've been dealing with. But then we have cowards who are part of the FOP who sit back and say, oh, no, you can't prove it. That's just hearsay. No, everything we've been saying was exactly on point. We finally got a video to prove it. And then when we got the courts to look into it, it shows that everything we've been saying prior to that was also true.
Now, in his indictment, does it give any kind of indication of what he's being indicted for? Because I hear a lot of charges that you're bringing out, but are those a part of what he's being indicted for? Or just...
So he's being charged on 8 different charges.
Okay.
He could face anywhere from 0 years in prison to 13 years in prison, right? And I think it's going to be closer to the zero end of things, like it always is. But a few of those charges are conduct
Disorderly
conduct unbecoming,
Okay.
Disorderly conduct, assault, and I forget the rest.
Okay.
But at
go
the
ahead,
end of the day, I disagree with Kobe. I think he's going to jail
Yeah.
because this has gotten national attention now. CNN picks it up. And, you know, we called for the resignation of the chief, I believe it was September. Now here it is February. And they didn't let this officer go until January. And I'm going back to the point I've been making before. The mayor has to understand and get it through his head, he made a mistake. Change it. You know, to the point where it gets national attention and you're still not embarrassed and you're still not concerned, and your chief hired this guy, and you have all these outlandish things that have transpired on his watch. In my view, it's because he has created an atmosphere wherein too many officers think they can do just what the hell they want to do and get away with it. And somebody has to be held accountable and responsible for all these outlandish incidents that have transpired and are a matter of public record. Plus the fact that he set the murder record. He set the shooting record. But if we go back to previous mayors, you know, there was all this push to make sure that, you know, all these threats, we're going to take the city charter and all this, but because it's Mayor Pazicki, it's fine. But his unwillingness to understand and deal with the fact he's made a mistake in leadership, it's adversely affecting the city, it's adversely affecting the department, and it's substantiating everything that President Congo and the members of City Council who voted no confidence have said. And that's in addition to, separate and apart from, the call the NAACP made at our press conference in September. Well, it's just outrageous.
Well, it's probably an issue of no respect for the community that they're serving. Because if the call had gone out, there needs to be a response. You're right, it made national attention of this particular officer. So you may think he may go to jail for a little bit. I'm kind of on Kobe's side on this one, in that they will find a way to find a loophole to make sure it doesn't happen. But the thing that troubles me now is 2 weeks in a row we've had murders in the city. And that's concerning to me, because we knew when it gets warmer, that's when things happen. You know, I've heard people brag that we've not had any, but since it's been warm 2 weeks in a row, this week so far, and we pray that there are none, there have not been any, but the last 2 weeks before that, there were one each week. This is serious, and it needs to be looked at from the police brutality to just sheer incompetence within the administrative structure, that something is wrong.
And I sorry, I lost my place in my notes, but I have the charges here,
Okay.
right? So the charges are tampering with public records, Ron.
Tampering.
Second-degree perjury, third-degree assault, 3 counts of it, official misconduct, 2 counts of it, and falsifying a business record.
Wow.
So those are his charges right now. He's facing up to 13 years, right?
Only 13 years?
Only 13 years for all that. But also, you touched on another point, right? You touched on the mayor made a mistake, right? But the mayor was very vocal when Councilwoman Shanae Darby posted a Facebook meme that said that the police are rooted in the KKK, right? He came out, put a press conference out, him and John Rago, Loretta Walsh and James Spadola all put these posts out and wanted to condemn a black woman for talking about something that is true if you look at how the police were truly started, right? And that they have had a long history of police officers being members of the KKK, right? But they wanted to condemn her and say that she's the reason why we have public mistrust in the cops. That's what they said in their statement, right? But not one of them have opened their mouths against Samuel Waters when he actually does something like this, where he lied on record. But see, here's the thing. they only like condemning black people.
I didn't even think about it. Thank you. I mean, well, I keep hearing Jay talk about.
But I mean, Kobe's right on point as usual because, you know, as long as it's black people shooting black people, they don't give a damn. Mm-hmm. And as long as it's a white officer doing whatever he or she is doing to black people, here again, they don't give a damn. It's just that simple. Mm-hmm. All right, and you know, racism is, as one of the advocates in the 60s said, is American as cherry pie. If anybody doesn't think it doesn't exist right here in the city of Wilmington, then they're out of their mind.
Well, you know, Cecil County is where KKK was started down there in Rising Sun. So the officer alone would have been thoroughly vetted if I had certainly been on that committee to deal with it. It's not even about, for those of you who are watching this, it's not even about lambasting Chief Tracy because, look, we don't have time for that. But what the issue is, we need some competence to the level where statements are made and then followed up, and then we see some teeth in what is being said. For the community not to get addressed when we are constantly facing various aspects is to say, I don't care about the community. We're going to do it our way. Now, Jay, you've said this several times, and it's like I wanted to challenge you, but I kept my mouth closed. You said, you know, that the mayor doesn't want to admit that he made a mistake. Since, I know you want to say something, but since watching Putin, I've been watching the psychology of this horrific Russian leader. All too often we have passive Putins and we have aggressive Putins. And if the mayor will sit on this as, I'm not going to admit that I made a mistake, if that's the true psychology, then I have a serious issue, because we all make mistakes in our hiring and our interaction with life as a whole. And sometimes people come in and you have all the hopes for them, but it does not mean that they could, if they fail, that we cannot remove them, because we have a whole city that we have to seriously look after. And I'm concerned about that. And I've heard you say it 3 or 4 times, and I kept my mouth closed because I'm saying I just don't think that's true, but I'm starting to believe it.
Well, they're in denial. They're in denial about what's going on. They're in denial about the mistakes that's made, and they're in denial about themselves. Okay? And the harsh reality is, there's no question in my mind that they're not going to listen to reason, and the only way we get any relief from this disastrous situation in the city of Wilmington is we're going to have to look outside the city and seek relief elsewhere.
Well, you good on that litigation piece. I don't like litigation, to be honest with you. I like agitation. It's still, see, you like litigation, and that's a good thing, you know, and it has worked. It's worked with the Board of Education. You have a lot of success in that area. I don't like litigation because they got more money, and they know that. I like agitation, because agitation will cause them to be seen for who they are, and they can't move and operate unless we give the permission for it to happen, because we will agitate the streets, we will agitate their parking, their buildings, and that's what needs to happen in order to get the real attention. But what often happens, and that's why I'm so much, we're going to get to the Ukraine shortly, I'm so much in love with Ukrainian people, because they've made up their mind. They're bigger than us. They got more weaponry than we have, but we're not going to just knuckle under. Well, they fought. They're fighting, and that's what I like.
Let me disagree with you.
Okay.
The struggle historically showed that we did 3 things, and we did it very well.
Okay.
As a people, and that is demonstrate,
okay,
litigate, and legislate. And all 3 of those things need to be done. And the fact of the matter is, you spending your money to pay for this show, and we're sitting here every Sunday agitating.
No, we ain't agitating. This is just raising the consciousness. My way of agitation is to close 95 down. My way of agitating is to go down to the Chase Center when they have another big event and not let nobody onto that whole campus. That's agitation. Because then it's like, oh, wait a minute, you're messing with my money. You're messing with my prestige. See, this is just us letting you know that we're not stupid.
No, this is a warning shot.
Yeah,
it's not going to go away.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that one. But I just don't want to be misconstrued that we have not seen agitation yet. Well, we have, because we've been a part of some struggles. But if we can get the people to organize appropriately, that's what the whole Quiet Storm was about. If we can get the people to organize appropriately, they will understand agitation. They will wish you had litigated.
Well,
Anything?
all the above.
Mm-hmm. Well, look. Every time we get somebody who can help us in the legislative side, they try to find a way to pull them down and tear them down. I mean, I was so impressed with even what's going on with, and I had that interview with the mayor on my other show, not Mayor Seals, how he was so happy that finally we had someone in Dover who was delivering for our community. He was so happy that Darius Brown was delivering for the community. But what do? They find a way to get rid of the person. Now, I'm not saying everything he did was right, but by the same token, look at all the dirt and stuff that people are doing, and he gets putting it under the rug.
Well, let's see if the Attorney General sends her top guns after this cop.
Oh, no.
Let's see if she sends her top guns after this cop.
No. Okay. Let's see. Now, we don't bet. I don't bet. Right. You bet, but I don't bet. But I'm willing to act like I'm not me and bet you everything I have that ain't gonna happen. You're gonna find the weakest lawyers on this case.
I'm not taking that bet. That's why I said what I said.
Look, let's move this to the next thing I want to talk about real quickly is the 6 students that was arrested in Newark High School. What's going on? Last week we talked about a black student who was arrested, and then we also saw some of the treatment of our black children. A lot is going on psychologically, and I'm just trying to figure out what's going on with this whole arresting of these minors in these schools.
Let me be real crystal clear, and folks will say from last week I'm on repeat, and y'all can disagree with me, but first of all, I'm not sitting here condoning fighting and all this outrageous behavior, but there's a pattern here. You know, we've got Glasgow High School week before last, we've got Newark High School this week, and then I got a complaint last night that I'm not going to embarrass the community center, but 20 kids suspended from a community center for fighting because there was 20 girls in the bathroom. And if we have to understand that, as I pointed out, in those city schools in the city 5-6 years ago, that 90% of the kids were not meeting the standards in core subjects. They're in middle school and high school now. What is it y'all don't understand? Okay, they're far behind, they're not focused, and they're getting attention in all the wrong ways, but where are the interventions?
Well,
okay? And who is watching the store? How you gonna be in the school all day and don't see this, smell this, have any idea that all these melees are coming? And there's another harsh reality with Christina. When those kids leave here from the city of Wilmington to go to Christiana, Glasgow, and Newark, it's the first time they've been in buildings with white students in their lives. They're in a brand new environment. So where's the assistance with transition? Okay, because you go to all minority schools in Christina, elementary school and middle school. So when you go into these high schools, you're in a brand new environment and there's no transition plan. And the fact that I talked about the need for interventionists in schools to help these kids with their problems, the fact that we keep on talking about mental health specialists in the schools to help these kids with their problems, and most importantly, these classes need to be cut in half so that these kids have an opportunity to make up for all the things that they didn't learn when they were in elementary school through no fault of their own.
And I want to add to that, you know, these 6 students, when I was reading the article, I discovered that they did not have weapons. It was, because did you see, correct me, I've read the article.
No, they didn't have weapons.
No.
Right, there was a fight, and we're not condoning fighting. But what I think we're missing is we're giving our kids records because they have not been properly prepared. So therefore, they're having these outbreaks, whether it be physical fights. But now these 6 children have arrest records for resisting arrest because they were emotionally overloaded and they end up expressing themselves physically, and I'm not condoning it, but the point becomes, did they have to get arrested? Could they not just break them up?
But how naive are you? You're in Newark with the Newark police, where there are no, I don't know how many black officers they have now, but when we desegregated, there were none. Wow. But you're already in a hostile environment, you're away from home, and you have no more common sense than to be raising all this hell. They're not going to tolerate it in any of these schools, and you got to get home. So, it's just naivete on the part of our kids, and I'm going all the way back to something I said to you guys off camera. When the charter schools started taking away from the enrollments of the school districts, they cut art, they cut music, okay? And so if I ask you right now, who's the art teacher at Bancroft Middle School? Who's the art teacher? Who's the choir director at Bayard? All these things don't exist, and to continue to take away and not put back from these kids is just outrageous. Everybody is not going to be exceptional as math, but, I'm a product of the arts, okay? I mean, I played clarinet, sang in the choir, and was in the glee club, and all that. It kept me out of trouble. I got in too much trouble as it was, but it kept me out of trouble, probably kept me from ending up with charges like these kids. But we've just taken everything away from these kids, replaced it with nothing, and then wonder why they want to go on Facebook, TikTok, or whatever it is they use, and have videos of themselves fighting or videos of somebody getting the crap beat out of them for no reason.
Yeah, it's not good. You just say something.
Yeah, so I just wanted to talk. The ages of these kids were from 14 to 17. Mm-hmm. They were charged with disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. Mm-hmm. Now, in the article, the school district, everyone has made it very clear that it was no weapons and no one was injured. Mm-hmm. So why are they getting charged?
Right. Resisting arrest.
Right.
They're too emotional. Go ahead.
Exactly. So now, again, this just criminalizes students that look like me and you for the simple fact that they're brown and they're black. Whereas, again, and now it's really hitting the papers a lot, but again, we're not seeing this because there's fights at these other schools because I see the videos. I mean, people, like Jay said, people post them on Instagram. It's very clear. And people talk about, even the kids, the black student unions talk about the disciplinary differences. When it's a bunch of white kids fighting, they just get, a timeout pretty much.
Well, you saw that in Jersey. That was a prime example of how the police, how certain people handle black and brown people. It went from sit here, Johnny, to let's tackle this black boy who's out of control.
I mean, and that's what we're dealing with.
Versus what they would do back in the day. Me and you get to fighting. They break the fight up. Everybody down. Bring me the gloves. We'd have at it. And then probably the next week, he was my best friend.
One of the things I said, and I'm going to be criticized for making this statement, is that the worst thing that happened to the African American culture is that we accepted the European culture. What you just said is something that I could see the sociologists and the psychologists say, "Oh my God, that is so inhumane." But honestly, there's a lot of things, like my mama would tear my butt up if I did something wrong. So therefore, I thought about it before I did it. Let my mother tear my butt up now. She goes to jail. Once we have accepted this European way of handling family, handling issues, it did open up the door for a whole lot of other stuff to happen. And right now, we're just seeing results. You talked about the boxing gloves. Can you imagine? That's fighting. That's aggression. You are a public official. You should not have said that.
Well, I just told what the history was.
Yeah, but don't say that, because if you say that, I'm going to have to get my cancel culture folks to come after you.
Well, so be it.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. I'm with you. All right, so I just feel bad that these young people are getting these arrest records. These young people will have to apply for jobs, and they're going to look like they're aggressive, angry people, even before they get jobs, because of something that's going on in these schools. There was no weapons, and they could have handled that differently. And yes, there are fights that happens at other schools with Caucasian students, and they are not being treated to the same level. It is not making the newspapers, but yet ours do. And that's just not unfair.
But it's a little bit worse than Christina. Because, you know, if I know Christina, they're actively moving to expel these kids, and they will expel them with no services. And here's a district that was found by OCR in December 2012 for discriminating and discipline, district-wide at all levels, and I don't know any mechanism that's been put in place to change that.
And we're back. Let's take it to the national level, and I am just happy that even though it's a sad moment because of the fact that Russia, or should I say Putin, he has certainly waged an all-out war against the Ukrainians who did nothing but wanted their democracy, and he probably thought it was a threat to the autocrat government in Russia. But they are fighting. They are fighting, and I don't want to seem like I'm endorsing fighting, but I just love it when people have a cause and they stand firm for their cause. I mean, I see old women, old men, everybody say, I'm going to fight. But you agree, say something.
Yeah, no, there was a video the other day of an elderly woman standing up to some Russian soldiers, and pretty much she's telling them how it is, and then she, you know, has her walker and she walks off. Look, you may not condone the fighting. I will. Look, when you have someone like Russia and like Putin coming in trying to push over, take your land, take what belongs to you, you have to fight back. And that's what the people are doing. It's not just the military. It's civilians. Civilians say, oh, hold up. We got to come together as a nation. Something that us Americans cannot do. We couldn't even come together to put masks on. So I would really like to see, well, no, don't want to see, but I would, if we were ever in that situation, it would be very interesting to see who really unites, right? And that's what's happening over there when it comes to this fight. Now, you also have Russian soldiers who are surrendering in droves.
Yeah, I was really shocked to see that.
They're shocked that the people aren't welcoming them.
Because they were lied to.
They were lied to that the Ukrainians want you there. They want you to come and save them. So they weren't able to like get in their minds that they're going to real war, right? And then others were lied to and said that they were going on a training mission, but they crossed the border, and then when people fought back, they were like, whoa,
because this is not
what
what
you doing, right? But then also you look at just how bad the infrastructure of the Russian military it is. They are losing hundreds and hundreds of vehicles because of poor maintenance.
Running out of gas.
Tires, you know, just rusting off. So they were not truly prepared for this, and the Russian people are fighting a lot harder than they thought they would. Putin thought this was going to be a sit-stay campaign and be able to just roll in and take some key areas. Now, they have been winning some areas. They did just take a Ukrainian port, a key Ukrainian port, right? But other than that, they are struggling. They are struggling to win. And there's actually a Delaware family, a Mitz family, and the wife, the woman of the family, the mom, she is Ukrainian. And they're over there right now because they were staying over there to visit her family, stay with them for about a year. And they have been posting videos of the streets prior and now that they're dealing with. They're trying to get out the country. So, you know, it's very scary to see this in real time. You know, if we would have had social media during World War II or World War I, I guarantee you America would have probably got in sooner. Well, because you see the atrocities that are taking place. Well,
Putin, I'm going to come right to you. But Putin was very clear that he just want to get rid of this neo-Nazism. When the president of Ukraine is Jewish, I now see that he is truly certified now as Donald Trump's mentor.
Yes.
All the lies and schemes and scams that Donald Trump tried to do in this stronger democracy is what he's playing out and he told these soldiers lies.
Yeah.
And that's why they were caught off guard. Like, okay, I surrender. This is not what I was here for. And he's continuously, but it's scary. It's very scary because you don't know when he thought it was going to be a 6-day campaign. It's going to turn into something much longer, but he cannot lose.
Right.
His whole zone is I can't lose. So if I got to start the nuclear stuff, but he don't want to mess with America in that area.
Right.
I don't care. I'm not worried about that as much as I'm worried about the people in Ukraine, where he's going to start opening up missiles on everybody, which he said he was not going to deal with civilians.
Right.
But everything we've seen has. You were going to say something?
Well, to me, it's frightening. And it's frightening because, as I said on the show last week, and will continue to say, democracy is on the ropes, not only in this country, but around the world. And you've got a former president who's talking about running for president, who acquiesces to the point where he says Putin's a genius. And we as a nation need to understand how dangerous this is. And you look at what the Ukrainians are doing to fight back on one end, but then you look at our former president, Putin, North Korea, whatever his name is, and the fact that OPEC and the Arab nations are not supporting, and oil's at $100 and some a barrel, and now we're at almost $4 a gallon. It's impacting us, but the OPEC nations are getting filthier rich.
Yeah.
Not getting filthy rich, filthier rich. All off the backs of these people trying to hold on to a democracy.
Yeah. Yeah, we're under some serious attack, and we really need to focus in and pay attention. And this whole election thing is what's bothering me. But then there was a little twist in it, that kind of troubled. I remember the conversation I had with my wife. But there's a little twist there when there's a video with CNN did some reporting where the Ukrainians was not permitting the black and brown people to get on the trains. Look at this real quick.
We're on the platform where a lot of people are trying to get onto the trains, and these are people who are refugees who have come from Ukraine. And just as Ara was mentioning, these are people who are Ukrainians born and bred. These are people who are immigrants to Ukraine. They're students from places like Afghanistan and Cameroon, West Africa, you name it. There are people here from all over the place. It gives you some idea of how people were living also in Ukraine. There were a lot of students who are trying to figure out what to do and how to get home as they flee Ukraine. But also we are hearing, and we have a firsthand account. Now, the person that Arwa spoke to was hearing that this was happening, so they didn't go see it for themselves. Naya says she experienced it herself. She is a mother who was trying to get on the train. There is a free train, and that's what everyone is trying to get on so they can leave Ukraine. And that free train had tons of people. She was noticing that, the Caucasian Ukrainians were able to get on very quickly. But when it came to her, they literally pushed her back and then pushed another woman, she said, back. And the woman fell back and hit her head. Both of them are black women with children. They were trying to explain that they should be able to get on like everyone else. Here's what else she said. She said, it's bad enough for us, but here's what's happening to black men.
All the black guys, no. There was one inside the train. They went inside the train and showed him gun. Walk out.
They put a gun
to
a black man's face.
I said, walk out. And he walked out because he was scared of guns.
So you're telling me that there is discrimination by the Ukrainians against
Seriously,
black people?
discrimination on the black people entering the train, the free train. They help their people. They do not want to help blacks.
That's just interesting. She's doing some reporting to basically share what another woman saw and how she was treated with blacks or black and brown people who were trying to get on the train. Now, that kind of shifted some of our feelings with that, but I'm open to hear what you all are thinking about that.
How can you sit there and call that a little twist? I mean, that's major as far as I'm concerned. The fact of the matter is, you got these women who were being pushed. They were pushed physically away so they couldn't get on the train, and they're saying they're not even worrying about themselves, that guns were drawn on the males. And these are primarily students who were in school from Africa who are just trying to lead the country like everybody else, but you're going to put guns on these young men and not let them get on the train and physically push our females around, and that's not insignificant to me. And it's troublesome as to how people of color are treated
in the world.
Throughout the world.
Yeah, and that's the sad reality. For those of you who watch, you may say, well, all they want to talk about is race, race, race. I mean, we don't make the news. It is what it is. And the reality of it is, all the way across the world, the same situation. We are trying to all get safe. These were students. I'm glad you brought that up because I did not say that earlier. These were students, and the men were, guns were pointed at them, get away, and the women were pushed away, black women, and I just think that's just wrong.
And here's the thing, they're students, but they're not even regular students. Most of them are medical students, right? These are people who are going to Ukraine to better themselves, become doctors, and then give back to their country, right? Now, most of them are Nigerian, Kenyan. It's just always been a huge flow from that country to Ukraine for their medical schools, right? And they're being denied by the Ukrainian police, who are saying things like, oh, this passage is only for Ukrainians. Now, granted, they had a hard time telling the other Europeans who weren't Ukrainian, but I guess it sticks out when you can't hide your skin color. But then also you look at it, right? So you have these students who are being pushed back, who are having guns drawn on them. This is very similar to what we face here in America. Right? It does not matter if you're African American, African, Caribbean, whatever. Regardless, we face issues solely based on our skin colors. And that's rooted in white supremacy throughout the world.
And that's the sad reality.
And that's exactly why I don't travel. You know, the situation's bad enough here, but now if you leave the country, you don't know what you run into, and if you run into something, there's no guarantee that anybody here is going to help you get back home. And I ain't Patti LaBelle. I don't want to be in another country on my own.
We'll be right back. And we're back. Favorite time of the show, Kobe. What's going on with Kobe's Corner?
Yeah, so the mayor is about to give his budget address, and that will be followed up at the end of the month, the start of budget hearings. So it kicks off with the Wilmington City Council, the mayor's office, and the treasurer's office on March 30th, going through their budget hearing. Now, if they do the same system they did last year, it was very interactive. You can go to their website, Wilmington Budget. You can leave comment. You can look at the meetings on YouTube, as well as you can join the meetings for public comment at the end if you have any questions or concerns.
Is that a Zoom meeting or is that an in-person meeting?
It's a Zoom meeting.
Okay.
Everything's Zoom right now.
Okay.
I don't know if they're going to change it back to in-person halfway through, but as of right now, everything's set as Zoom.
Okay.
And some of the other dates I just want to flag with people is April 4th is the Wilmington Police and Fire Department will be going. April 6th is L&I and Housing. April 11th is Economic Development and Parks and Recs. And April 13th is the Auditor's Office, HR, and Law Department's office. Okay. So definitely, if you are concerned about what's going on with diversity in our police department, I would definitely recommend everyone be there April 4th to speak out about that and also speak out about what is going on within our police department and their relations with the community right now. And that's going to be huge.
Well, at the budget hearings, you know, somebody better be concerned about the fact that the city has been found to be in non-compliance with HUD at the tune of $446,000. and then the city has the unmitigated gall to put something, put a legal notice in the public press that says, we're going to pay this $446,000 back by taking $148,000 away from the grant for the next 3 years. So somebody made, and it's not just one, somebody made egregious errors in distributing federal funds that are designated to help low-income people find housing and obtain housing, and you're going to resolve that by taking away from the grant. So you're going to resolve that off the backs of the people that the grant is intended to help. That's outrageous.
Yeah, and you know what? And I want to apologize because that was something that was supposed to be one of our major topics today.
Well, you know I try to get my licks in.
Yeah, well, I apologize, but so Kobe, hold your corner for
Yes.
1 second. Let's stay there for a second. I don't understand. If I misappropriate a grant, I go to jail. You mean the city of Wilmington misappropriated funds, and the way they solved their misappropriation is to say, for the next 3 years, give us some more money, and I'm going to take it from the people who rightfully deserve this money to pay it back.
$148,000 reduced for 3 years so that they can pay the federal government back for money that was spent in violation of federal rules and regulations. And here again, okay, when something like this transpires, somebody needs to be held accountable,
Absolutely.
somebody needs to be held responsible, but this never gets out if somebody doesn't find it and see it buried in the legal notices in the paper. But you haven't heard anything from the media about it, okay? But if Dennis was the mayor, this would be a front page scandal.
Well, then the question, but the question is to us is that then how do we make sure that this doesn't go under the rug? Let's bring it from under the rug now.
I think we just did.
Well, no, this is a small show.
Doesn't matter. It's being followed already.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry.
I'm not finished.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, I'm not. I mean, I'm not finished with this. There's going to have to be some confrontation, either with or at city council and where they're at in the mayor's office, and this just can't. To me, this is shameful.
It is
disgraceful, and they shouldn't be allowed to get away with it.
And they cannot.
There's nothing in that remedy to take away from the grant. There's nothing that's being done or said to prevent future occurrences.
Right.
And $446,000, that ain't monopoly money.
Well, for them, but it should come out of the mayor's budget. But then again, I have a problem with that too, because if it comes to come out of the mayor's budget, it's coming out of taxpayers' money. But
it's all taxpayer money.
But it needs to be somebody approved for that money to go where it went. So whoever approved it needs to go and be appropriately adjudicated.
But it says more than one in more than one situation.
Well, I don't care if it's 7,000.
But my point is, it's not just one instance. These are several instances that added up to $446,000.
So how do we correct it if all we're going to do is take money from the next year's budget, next year's allocations, without holding anybody?
We're agreeing on something.
I never disagree with you on that. I never disagree with you on that, because at the end of the day, we don't solve it by just saying, okay, we will just take some money out of the next year's allocations. No. Whoever did this needs to be held accountable, and I think that's part of public record, because it is federal money, and it needs to be known what happened.
And if they don't comply, then we're going to lose all the federal money.
Well, they're going to comply because they already got a remedy how to comply, but it ain't going to go under the table.
But I think the city council has to approve this, and so calls need to start going now to city council members. Are y'all really going to let them do this?
Well, I'm going to be the first one to call. I'm going to be the first one to call, and I'm going to make sure they're clear on what I'm calling for, because this is unacceptable. I'm sorry, Kobe, for jumping in your corner.
No,
that was supposed to be
that was
supposed to be a major comment today, and it just slipped our agenda. But go ahead.
No, that is 100% fine with me. some of the other things I wanted to talk about was the General Assembly is coming back into session. They are wrapping up their joint finance hearings, which means on March 8th they will be back in session, which means bills will be coming out. Pre-file date is Friday. So once they're back, you'll start seeing even more bills pick up. Now, this is the last leg of the session, which means anything that doesn't pass by June 30th, it dies, right? Which means they would have to reintroduce it the following year when the new session, when new people are in office as well too, because of the election.
What do you think are priorities, Kobe, that we should be looking out for?
So I think, one, there's a few bills that deal with funding for our public schools that are going to put mental health specialists in our schools. Now, one thing I've been advocating for a long time, there should be a mental health specialist and counselors in every school. They should not have to share. They should be funded, just like we fund our SROs. There should be counselors in every school, because if you can put a cop in there, right, and be punitive, we should also be more proactive and help individuals. Now, granted, one counselor per school is still too low. That is way too low. We still have a lot of work to do, but I think we have to start there. And that bill is being led by Val Longhurst. On the policing front, there is a bill, SB.149, that I've talked about I don't know how many times.
I know that bill now.
There's SB.101, which is a tenant's bill of right. That is going to be huge, especially for the city of Wilmington, where now Wilmington is now a majority renter city. So it's just putting in a bill of rights for those who are in these houses, and it fights back against slumlords.
And the slumlords are already fighting.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. And they got their people down there.
Oh yeah, of course. And you know, we have some pushing to do left on that. There's other things such as eliminating fines and fees that keep this system of incarceration going. HB 244. Now that bill, what it does, it eliminates the prerequisites. If someone in good faith is trying to pay back their debts to society, right? They've been in jail, now they just have fines. They shouldn't be penalized for being late on a payment. Once or twice and lose their driver license. Now they can't go to work. Now they can't work. Now they don't have any more money. Now they end up back in jail, right? Delaware has a 70% recidivism rate. Now, also, it eliminates the fact that these fines are applied to minors, right? A lot of these minors can't even work. So these 14, 15-year-olds, they may be able to get summer youth jobs, or they may be able to get something after school, maybe, but they have a record now, right? And you're piling these fines up for them not being able to pay, and then it affects them being able to get a job in the long run. So then they turn to a life of crime, and then they end up in the system, and they're in and out of jail until they do something major that keeps them in jail for the next 20, 30 years. So it's bills like that that are still up on the docket right now that I think are super important. Of course, the budget, bond bill, and grant and aid are the major ones that they're going to try to pass at the end of the year, that they have to get passed by the end of the year, or they're going to have to keep coming into session. And none of them like going in over their time. So that's where we're at with that, starting March the 8th. And then bond committee will be meeting at the end of March into April to hear what capital projects the state's going to be working on and where that additional money can go. Next, I want to talk about the president's State of the Union and some takeaways from there. So I think he started out very strong, and he made it very clear that he stands with the Ukrainian people. And he said, end quote, Putin badly miscalculated, right? He called Putin out by name, which I think is huge, and pretty much said that, you know, the Americans stand with them and we're ready to protect anyone in NATO. So again, the rhetoric of former President Trump has been Putin's right. Oh, we should stand with Putin. Biden came out to reassure all our allies that we stand with them, we stand with the people of Ukraine, and we're ready to go if we get pulled into that. He talked about battling inflation. So prices have been on a rise. It's been really bad, especially with gas. He talked about releasing billions of gallons of gas from the reserves to help bring down the prices right now, especially as we're kind of in this sanction battle with Russia right now, and looking at how they can kind of restart our economy and make sure people are on their feet and ready to go. He also talked about bringing back Made in America. For our car industry, for the Rust Belt. He said it's time to get rid of the Rust Belt and make it the manufacturing hub of America again, right? It's no longer rusty. So he talked about that. He also talked about life after COVID, right? One of the big things was almost no one in the building that night had a mask on.
Yeah.
In Delaware, as of Tuesday at 6 p.m., our mask mandate has fully been lifted, and that the last part was in schools, right? There's still a lot of people pushing back on that. I'm still going to continue to wear my mask.
Absolutely.
Because we're still dealing with this.
Yes.
President Biden also talked about the different variants. He said, I can't promise there won't be another variant, but we have to stay ready. We have to have supplies ready. He talked about ordering more tests and more vaccines than any other nation in the world, and also helping other nations so that we can get back to our open travel and be able to travel safer. And then one area which I kind of saw coming and disagreed with him a little bit was he pushed back on the notion of defund the police. I know you're going to say, oh, Kobe, you said you're not defund the police. That's right. But when you're reallocating money, right, that means you're taking money away from something and putting it somewhere else. He played right into the hands of the Republicans who are already using that as a narrative, right? Now, people who actually said defund the police won their races all across on the federal level. Cori Bush won her race, right? What we are talking about is reallocating these massive police budgets and let police get back to their root jobs of public safety and bring in mental health specialists, bring in crisis interventionists, bring in those support services needed, right? There's places like Denver, Colorado that has the STAR program that has seen a huge decrease in police brutality because now for low incident calls, they're sending out crisis intervention specialists instead of police. And what they're seeing is people are actually just having mental health breakdowns, and they've seen that decrease in the amount of brutality that's happening or just interaction with the cops as well too, right? So it's things like that. So he said, you know, we don't want to defund, we want to fund the police, we want to give them more money. Well, if you're giving them more money, make sure those resources are going to what is truly needed, right? Just having more foot patrol officers is not going to do anything for the community. Wilmington, Delaware has one of the biggest per capita police forces in the entire East Coast, and we have one of the highest crime rates. We have one of the highest murders per capita rates. So it does not necessarily help there. And then when we have incidents like when they broke in across the street, the cops are too busy to actually do anything about that. We got to let them get back to their root job, so what they signed up for, and make sure we bring in key allies in the department that could help with the other things.
Right.
That's what they have to get back to.
And I want to just throw on that one little area that, yes, it is true, but I think what Biden was trying to do, and if he wasn't, let me just put my two cents in it, that I don't believe that we should defund the police, but I do think we should allocate appropriately.
Yes.
So I think the negativity of the language is what he was trying to push back on, but no one in their right mind would say defund the police because we need the police. But I hear you, and you are right. We do also need interventionists. We also need people who can help augment the police department so they won't be doing 6 jobs. They should be supporting that.
And see, the RNC has already cut ads against Democrats with the talking point that Biden said, saying, look, they can't even get in line with their own president. So it kind of backfired in the sense, and that's what I mean by that. And then lastly, my last point here is that for the first time since I can remember, the January 6th committee, right, a federal committee, has filed a suit against President Trump and other lawmakers stating that they obstructed justice, right, obstructed the official proceedings, but also that they concluded that in good faith, they're concluding that President Trump and members of his campaign team engaged in criminal conspiracy to defraud the United States of America based on what happened on January 6th and them pushing for armed terrorists, homegrown terrorists, to try to take over the Capitol.
Yeah, and just so nobody won't get confused, yes, they did, the January 6th committee did do that, but it was not an indictment yet.
Right.
We're asking Garland to please step up.
Yes.
And take the information that was provided. But also with that whole January 6th committee, the attorney for Trump was trying to make it clear is attorney-client privileges, and the attorney has a right to keep private every conversation they have with their client. However, they can never give the client the advice to do something illegal, unethical, and he did. And the judge going to probably rule in the favor of the January 6th committee.
Yes.
But it's going to continue to be appealed because I think that's what they want to put out in the public, that they got proof that Trump's lawyer helped him try to overturn the decision of the voters in America, and I think that's just deplorable.
Right. And this was filed in the U.S. District Court in the Central District of California. So this is probably going to make it to the Supreme Court, right? So we're going to be following this very closely, and this may actually be the first case that Biden's new Supreme Court justice pick may have to hear, may not, depending on the timeline of this.
Okay.
Well, just let me be pessimistic, because everything that he said, I don't think is going to come to fruition. And it's not all his fault, because he's stuck with two dinos. And I don't think he's going to be able to accomplish anything that he can accomplish going forward with executive order. And as far as Trump's concerned, we're a year and almost 2 months out. And if they were going to do something with Trump, they'd have done it. But as you said, agitate. Let us go out here, shut down 95, something happened, and we'd have been in jail. Been in jail. So
here's the thing with that, not just that. We already saw what the city's response was to protests, right?
Yeah.
So the week before before anything went bad, how protesters, when it was still peaceful, were met, and with the energy, which enraged a lot of people, was Mayor Pazicki sent his Wilmington firefighters out there with the fire trucks. And they had their hoses hooked up, ready to hose people down. They had snipers out there. They had police out there. So that enraged a lot of people. I watched through the Facebook videos. That enraged. If you're meeting me with that type of energy, that's going to enrage a lot of people.
And so what the heck is the difference between that and what was going to happen if you hadn't had the leadership and the wherewithal to make it peaceful? What would have been the difference between that and what happened in the South in the 60s? What would have been the difference?
Well, y'all were able to keep y'all Negroes under control. The 60s weren't.
So the mayor came out.
They were able to open up the fire things and spray y'all.
The mayor came out, John Rago, David Karras sent letters to all these businesses. Bud Friel pushed for white people over in the Highlands to leave their homes because we were going to be violent. They sent letters to businesses, even to the Enterprise on Philadelphia Pike, telling them, oh, you need to move all your cars and take your lockbox in because these people are going to come riot. They had snipers on the roof while Lisa Blunt Rochester was talking. This is the Wilmington Police. That was David Karras, John Rago, and Mayor Pazicki, and Loretta Walsh.
Yeah, well, I'm going to get ready for the next show because y'all will have, that'll be another 30 minutes conversation. You don't name people that I don't think we need to be naming when I'm getting ready to call it off. Listen, I hope you enjoyed the show today. Our time is up and it just goes so quickly. I want to thank Brother Kobe as well as Brother Street for the time that they often share with us as we try to bring you the news. It is a struggle. It is a struggle to be African American, to be Black, Brown, Latino in the society that we live in. And I hope that you all will take heart to the fact that we bring you this information so you will know know that we are not treated fairly, nor are we treated equally. But then the mayor has to now step up and say, you know what, I need to play a role in helping to solve some of the problems. For those of you who are listening to the governor, where he's gotten rid of all the mask mandates, I am a strong believer, until you know that this pandemic is over, you need to keep your mask on. And those of you who have not been vaccinated, please go get vaccinated. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Kobe Owens.
If you ain't part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
And your name is?
J Street.
Yeah.
See ya.
Take care, y'all.